KJA Global Channel. Facts hold the weak, the wise handle the sources. Understanding the root, reshaping the system, and rebuilding a nation. Series 1, The Surface and the Depth. Episode 1, The Visible Facts. A 15-second video appears on a screen. A confrontation at a barrier. A person falls. The caption declares that they have betrayed the cause. Within minutes, the clip is cut, copied, reposted, and weaponized. Motives are announced as facts. Entire communities are condemned. Judgment arrives before context. This scene is a composite. The danger is not. Real people must survive the reaction to every viral fragment. A community braces for retaliation. A local mediator loses the space to act because public rage hardens before reliable evidence arrives. In conflict, a reckless accusation can destroy trust, access, safety, and lives. Verification is not an academic luxury. It is a shield for the vulnerable, and a discipline of legitimate public action. To handle the sources does not mean manipulating facts. It means verifying facts, separating them from emotion and assumption, and tracing the mechanisms that produced the event. Begin by distinguishing three forces that often arrive together. First, the fact. What can be anchored by reliable evidence? Second, the feeling. What shock, grief, anger, or loyalty has it awakened? Third, the interpretation. What explanation have we placed upon the facts? All three are real, but they demand different disciplines. Feeling deserves ethical care. Interpretation must remain open to rigorous examination. Fact requires verification. Feeling is a human signal, but it is not proof. Interpretation is a working explanation, but it is not yet a verdict. Confusing these categories creates two equal failures: treating emotion as evidence, or dismissing emotion as irrelevant. A disciplined citizen does neither. Return to the video. We may verify the recording, establish its place in time, and identify particular words or actions within the frame. But it may not show what happened before, beyond the frame, or after the recording ended. We may not know whether the caption came from a witness, whether the audio was altered, or whether the people named were correctly identified. A recording can be authentic while its caption is false. A visible fact can be accurate and still be radically incomplete. Judgment must therefore remain proportionate to the evidence. To move from the visible fact toward the deeper truth, climb the diagnostic ladder. It moves from description toward explanation, first establishing what happened, then examining why the harm occurred, and why it may happen again. A fact is a claim about reality that reliable evidence can verify. An event is a connected set of verified facts situated in time and place. A pattern is a meaningful recurrence across time, territory, institution, or population. A condition is a circumstance that makes the pattern more likely. An incentive is a reward, penalty, fear, or advantage that shapes behavior. A structure is the durable arrangement of authority, rules, resources, and accountability that sustains the condition. And a source is the deeper institutional vacuum, inherited logic, or distribution of power from which that structure arises. Real systems rarely have only one source. Multiple causes interact, reinforce one another, and change over time. We analyze deeper sources not to escape accountability, but to locate the levels at which intervention can work. Suppose verification establishes that the incident was a real dispute over access to a public facility. Condemning an insult may address immediate misconduct, while temporary mediation may prevent escalation. But repeated conflict may be driven by unclear jurisdiction, competing revenue claims, the absence of a trusted complaint process, insecure leadership, or unresolved historical fear. Each level demands a different response. When we call every level the cause, analysis becomes vague and design becomes impossible. Mechanisms and incentives matter because people often respond to the situation they face. A mechanism is the pathway through which a factor produces an outcome. An incentive is the reward or penalty that makes an action appear attractive, necessary, or safe. A leader may hold territory because surrendering control feels dangerous. A supporter may share an angry post because silence feels disloyal. A digital platform may distribute provocative content because attention generates measurable engagement and commercial value. Explaining these incentives does not excuse harm or erase moral agency. It identifies the levers capable of changing conduct. Explanation without responsibility becomes excuse. Responsibility without structural explanation becomes shallow blame. A serious public must hold both together. Research can sharpen judgment, but only when its limits are respected. A major study examined approximately 126,000 fact-checked rumor cascades shared on Twitter from 2006 through 2017 by roughly 3 million people. Within that dataset, falsehood diffused significantly farther, faster, deeper, and more broadly than truth. But this finding describes a particular platform, period, language environment, and collection of fact-checked claims. It does not prove that every false claim outruns every true claim in every society or on every platform. A separate study examined more than 563,000 social media messages concerning three polarizing political issues in the United States. It found that moral emotional wording was associated with greater diffusion, especially within ideological networks. That finding supports caution when emotionally charged content invites immediate sharing. It does not establish the truth or falsity of any particular message. Research can reveal tendencies. It cannot replace case-by-case verification. Before reaching a conclusion, perform the multiple cause check. Name the principal cause, contributing causes, immediate trigger, amplifiers, external factors, and remaining uncertainty. Finally, ask, what evidence would change my conclusion? If no possible evidence could change it, analysis has hardened into ideology. Source-based thinking must never become another rigid theory. The goal is not to invent one hidden cause behind everything. The goal is to build the best supported explanation available, and to revise it when better evidence arrives. Then distinguish 5 levels of response. Reaction expresses an immediate judgment or emotion. Intervention reduces present harm. Reform improves a rule, procedure, or practice. Transformation changes the deeper source that keeps reproducing the pattern. And safeguard creates the rule, institution, record, culture, or accountability mechanism that makes return less likely. These responses are not always sequential. Several may be required at the same time. Not every citizen controls every level. Responsible action begins by knowing one's role, authority, competence, and risk. For a citizen, the first safeguard may be an evidence card. Record the exact claim, preserve the original source without exposing a vulnerable person, and note the date, place, and scope. Separate what is visible from what is alleged, seek independent corroboration, and mark confidence as confirmed, probable, unclear, or contradicted. Do not identify alleged perpetrators without authoritative public evidence. Do not publish sensitive locations, routes, or identities. If you shared something false or unsupported, correct it publicly. Where possible, correct it before the same audience that received the original claim. Verification without correction is incomplete integrity. For community leaders, educators, and journalists, the safeguards must go further. Build trusted channels for rapid verification. Establish privacy and informed consent rules. Maintain transparent records of corrections. Train credible mediators. Create fair complaint mechanisms. And never blame an entire identity group for the alleged conduct of individuals. Freedom of expression and protection against direct and dangerous incitement must be held together. The threshold for restriction must be lawful, precise, evidence-based, context-sensitive, and subject to due process. Protection must never become vague censorship. And no political authority should be allowed to own the definition of truth. The visible event matters. The people harmed by it matter. Facts must be rigorously established. But what we see is rarely the whole explanation. To handle the source never means explaining away the harm. It means understanding the system well enough to stop the harm from returning. A disciplined mind does not ask you to feel less. It asks you to ensure that feeling serves truth instead of replacing it. It makes interpretation answerable to verification. And it matches action to the level of the system that failed. The untrained eye sees only the fire. The disciplined mind asks where the wiring failed, which warnings were ignored, why repair was postponed, and what safeguard will prevent the next fire. That is how a public turns information into knowledge. Knowledge into judgment. Judgment into responsible action. And responsible action into institutions capable of learning. That is how a nation handles its sources. Next, what counts as a fact? We will build a 5-field verification standard: source, date, scope, corroboration, and confidence. Because source-based thinking must begin on ground strong enough to carry public trust and the future of a nation. Beyond facts. Handle the sources. Watch next. Subscribe. Learn deeply. Think critically. Act responsibly. KJA Global Channel. Knowledge justifies authority.